I know it's been a while since we've had you on. I think it was June for the last episode with crypto, but I mean, it's been pretty quiet in the crypto space since then, right? Not much happening or...
That was sarcasm. I don't know if you guys are...
It was. There's been a lot that's happened in the space. Definitely want to update. I know everyone's heard about Bitcoin hitting 100,000 and all of these other things with Trump administration and whatnot. And we'll dive into all of that. I went back and listened to our episode from end of year 23 just to know what the icebreaker was. We did favorite Christmas movies. So now I'm going to do favorite Christmas songs. I feel like it's only right. So Jeff or Jamie, any stand out for you? Are you big Christmas music listeners? Some people don't love it.
I love Christmas carols. Pretty much all December. That's all we have on at the house. If I
Jamie,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say you kind of pegged me as someone who's been Christmas caroling before. Is that?
Did I? I don't know.
No. I'm just.
Yeah. I have really strong feelings about this one. I'm glad you asked because Christmas movies. I have a lot of like Christmas movies I like, but I just don't tend to watch a lot of movies. But Christmas carols, you can always have those on in the background. So I'd say I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas, definitely top 5. Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, another good one. And then there's a couple of songs. I think the best Christmas album of all time, and I've got to throw some kudos to like our team members in New Orleans, is the Harry Connick Jr. When My Heart Finds Christmas. He does like a couple covers, and then he's got a couple original songs, and it's just the bomb for a Christmas album. You can listen to it start to finish, puts you in a really good mood, and it's just good music.
I don't know that I've heard that. Is that like a jazz tune on it? Why'd you say no? He's just like from New Orleans?
He's from New Orleans, yeah.
New Orleans. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, New Orleans, a lot of good music in New Orleans. Man, yeah. I mean, Christmas songs are a classic, although you get tired of hearing them once you hear them over and over and over. And I did work retail in college, so a lot of those kind of hit that point for me. I will say that there's 2 artists that I really enjoy their version of Christmas songs. So the Trans-Siberian Orchestra, they have like kind of a heavier tilt to it with a lot of string instruments, some of the classic Christmas songs. I really like them. And then this one's a little strange, but Kenny G, he has an amazing Christmas album on the tenor sax where he just goes hard in the paint for no reason. So
is it all instrumental?
My dad is a huge Kenny G. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check it out because like I can't work to music with vocals. I just can't concentrate, but instrumental I can do all day long.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's all instrumental. Yeah, and there's a lot of great instrumental type albums, Christmas music and non-Christmas music, Jamie, that I can pass along to you.
I have to check it out.
Awesome. The only 2 I would add would be Wonderful Christmas Time, Paul McCartney. It's a classic.
We're going to have to compile a list, like Office Christmas playlist.
The Map Your Money Christmas playlist. And then I know like the most downloaded or listened one every winter switches between, I think it's All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey most times. But I know Last Christmas by Wham was like beating it this year, and everyone's like, "Oh, okay."
You know, another good one is what's the Springsteen? Like he did "Here Comes Santa Claus," or "Santa Claus is Coming to Town." He did it in the 70s, and there's a live version of that. It's really good too.
Love it.
I could see you, Arish, being a Mariah Carey kind of guy.
I mean, that's all I listen to day and night. So yeah. you got it right, nail on the hammer there.
You hit the nail on the hammer, Jeff.
Well, let's jump into it. Got an awesome episode. So we'll roll the tape.
Hello, and welcome to Map Your Money, a finance-focused podcast. We exist to simplify the lives of our clients and listeners and help individuals create the roadmap for their financial future. Content is for educational purposes only. Consult a financial advisor or conduct your own due diligence of investing. Calls are pre-screened and the content was pre-recorded.
All right, Jamie. So welcome back. It's been way too long. We'll make sure to get you on more frequently. But I know I had that sarcastic comment about nothing really going on in crypto. What's happened in the last 6 months? Why we're going to the moon? It seems like.
Well, you hit on one of the points already, which is BTC hit 100,000, and I don't think many people were expecting that so soon. For a lot of reasons. I mean, I kind of have some friends that I'm on a chat group with that are all investment people, and one of them was like, "No, it's never going to hit 100,000 because it is littered with sell orders, with like limit sell orders, and it's just going to hit a wall. But it broke through that, and I think it's significant for a lot of reasons. I mean, there's definitely some psychological significance to the $100,000 number, but I also think that it's significant from a headline perspective, because a lot of mainstream publications, I mean, boomers are going to read about it in the Wall Street Journal, and all they're going to be pretty interested in Bitcoin. And right or wrong, a lot of crypto adoption has to do with price. Price drives adoption, and that happens every cycle. So you hit a new all-time high, suddenly everybody sees it, and probably for all the wrong reasons, they get into crypto. And then, maybe they do well, maybe they don't, depending on where it goes from there. But it drives adoption, and now you have a whole new set of people that at least own some Bitcoin, own Ethereum, whatever it is. So I do think that it's significant just from that standpoint alone. Now, as far as what's driving that, that's where really all the exciting news is coming from. I mean, and one of the biggest ones is Paul Atkins being named the new head of the SEC.
And it was Gary Gensler before, right?
Yeah, so just to kind of shed some color on Paul Atkins and Gary Gensler. I mean, we've talked about Gensler in the past, Gensler's SEC. It's been a very political SEC, especially as it relates to crypto. There have been a lot of political reasons why they've really just been an overtly anti-crypto administration. And it comes down to the fact that Gensler was really looking for his next job. He was looking for his next promotion. That promotion, at least at the time, was going to come from Elizabeth Warren. And she is vehemently anti-crypto. And so Gensler, I think a lot of people would argue, didn't do a good job managing the SEC as it pertains to this issue. I mean, they were overtly hostile to crypto. They didn't really provide any clarity as to what they needed to see. And it's not like the crypto industry really, it's not like they didn't want any regulation. They just wanted clarity. And what ended up happening is all of the good actors that really tried to play by the rules, that had companies within the United States, got punished. I mean, they were overtly attacked, sued by the SEC. I mean, Coinbase, Kraken, you kind of run down the list of good actors. The SEC went after them, yet they did nothing to prevent the FTX fiasco. In fact, Sam Bankman-Fried probably had more meetings with Gary Gensler than the heads of all those other companies. And he was the one making a lot of political donations. And then, after the FTX fiasco happened, then it kind of became a big CYA stunt, and they just doubled down and really went after the good actors in the industry. So there were a lot of political headwinds, and so it's thankfully a lot of that got flushed out in the legal system, even during Gensler's administration, which is why we saw spot BTC approvals, spot Bitcoin ETF approvals, spot Ethereum ETF approvals. I think the SEC did that very reluctantly, but you can really argue that they did not do a good job fulfilling their mandate, protecting consumers, and really just providing clear guidelines. And so that's what the industry is looking for. They want someone to come in and really just give them clarity around what is it you need to see. And so Paul Atkins was nominated. He was the first pick. And initially, he, at least the rumor was that he didn't want to take the job. He said, it's just not a very attractive position to turn around the bloated agency that he believes was mismanaged by the outgoing chair. Atkins is a former SEC commissioner during the George W. Bush years, but he's been in private practice for a long time. He's got a firm, I think it's called Potomac Global Partners, that he established back in 2009. So he had plenty of his own business interests, but he did end up taking the position. And so I think that's one of many things that I think the crypto industry as a whole is, I think is just happy about. And you're seeing that in the price action.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and kind of following what's going on legislatively in Washington, I know is so important for a new asset class and how it gets adopted kind of across the board. It's been something we've kind of been talking about in the last 2 years with the spot Bitcoin ETF, with the spot Ethereum ETF, when that rolled out as well. And so now I know we have these 2 spot ETFs for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that was a huge legislative push to kind of get there. What's next on the horizon for what the crypto industry wants to come through that might have had prior restrictions due to the administration with the SEC before this?
I think I really want to drive home the point that I don't think that the crypto industry it's not that they don't want regulation. They just want clarity, and they want to see some rules in place that they can follow. And right now, I think that is the biggest thing in terms of what's next, is some type of clarity around, okay, if you want to launch a token, if you want to launch a coin, if you want to launch whatever type of crypto product, what is it you need to do to abide by the rules? And is it a security? Is it not a security? Is it governed by the SEC? Is it governed by the CFTC? We may not get all of that, but I do think that the political headwinds have definitely changed, and you're going to see a Congress and a Senate that is much more likely to write crypto regulation that is sane, where they are protecting consumers, but at the same time, they're not overtly going after the industry. And, just as an example to kind of highlight just how political things were, I don't know if this really came across anyone's radar, but the U.S. government is about to sell $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. And the implications of that, that's really kind of like an FU to the incoming administration. This isn't a political statement at all, but the current president was elected partially because of his stance on Bitcoin. And one of the things he campaigned on, or the president-elect, was a strategic Bitcoin reserve, which really is something that I think has bipartisan support. It's not intended to be a political issue. There are some Democrats that have broken ranks and really are on board with some of this. And there's a lot of reasons to get it, we can get into, so like why that's a good thing. If you think about Bitcoin as digital gold, we have gold in the reserve backing our currency. Why wouldn't you have Bitcoin do the same thing? And the U.S. government has a ton of Bitcoin that's been seized from Silk Road. And so all they'd really need to do is move that into a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
What do you mean by Silk Road? Sorry.
The Silk Road was a website on the dark web that transacted in all sorts of illicit things. So the founder, Ross Ulbricht, is in jail. You could buy drugs, you could, you name it, you could buy it on the Silk Road. And that's how a lot of people in the early days got exposed to Bitcoin, is because that's what they would transact in the Silk Road. It was in the early days, a lot of people who, tried to buy drugs in the early days got Bitcoin and then just kind of forgot about it. Their Bitcoin is, it's been 10 years and now their Bitcoin is worth a ton of money. It's unfortunate. That's also kind of what gave crypto such a bad rap as being illicit funds. I mean, the reality is it's the opposite of that. All of those transactions on the Silk Road are inscribed in the blockchain forever. So, federal agencies with enough digging can figure out who paid what, But when the Silk Road was brought down, the government seized all that Bitcoin, and it's a significant amount. And so this isn't like a Trump issue. This is, there have been numerous senators that have proposed this. I think Senator Lummis is one that has proposed a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and it's a really easy thing to do. And if you understand kind of where Bitcoin is going, the way adoption is trending, it's just something that would be really good for the United States. I would also make the case that if it were to be implemented, you would see kind of a flywheel effect, because if the United States creates a strategic Bitcoin reserve, guess what many other countries are going to do as well, just like they're doing with gold. Other countries are going to do it, and I think that would kind of have a flywheel effect on the price. So given that was one of the that was kind of one of the campaign points that this president was elected on, the timing of this sale seems somewhat political. Like they're sort of just thumbing their nose, saying, we don't like crypto, and we're really going to try to make this hard. And it probably will make things hard, because it's one thing if the U.S. government already has this Bitcoin to just transition it into a strategic Bitcoin reserve. It's another thing to go out and buy it.
Well, that could be a nice way for Doge to help us with the government spending problem, right? Just cover a couple billion right from the start by selling the Bitcoin.
Well, see, Jeff, this is where I think we got to think more long term, because as Bitcoin adoption increases, that strategic Bitcoin reserve is going to be worth a lot more. And, I think that's part of the case that's made about the importance of having one, is that it actually could put a big dent in the national debt if it continues to appreciate and we hold it.
What do you think of countries like El Salvador and like what they're doing? That's like one of the first countries to buy Bitcoin from a sovereign level, kind of put it in a sovereign wealth fund equivalent, right? And now I think they're still pretty involved. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, El Salvador, from my understanding, I'm no expert on this, but they're on the dollar. So it's not like they have their own, it's not like they're managing their own currency at this point. And then they've also made Bitcoin legal tender in that country. And then I want to say there's another country in Africa that's done the same thing. I mean, I definitely think they were very early, and I definitely think that they did it at a time that was very unpopular. It's definitely worked out well for them, because when they did that, the amount of Bitcoin they probably accumulated, if you look at the price then and the price now, it's probably been a good deal for them. I would also say, kind of in regards to a country like El Salvador, this is something that as Americans, we have a hard time getting our arms around. Why do you even need Bitcoin? I've got Zelle, I've got PayPal, I've got Venmo. What is the need for Bitcoin? I mean, we're pretty privileged to, one, be on the dollar, and then two, have access to the banking system. Not everybody does. And, I'd say less than half of the global population does. And if you live in a country with an oppressive monetary regime and you're poor, you really don't have an escape hatch. If you grow up in Venezuela or Argentina, countries that have seen rampant inflation and rampant fiscal mismanagement, if you're wealthy, you go out and buy real estate, and you have hyperinflation, the real estate appreciates. Or you go out and you invest your money abroad and you buy US bonds. If you're poor and you don't have access to those things, you really can't even save. You can't go to work, save 50% of your paycheck and have it be worth something in a month. And so, I do think the stance that El Salvador took, was very forward looking, and it is very meaningful in third world countries where maybe you don't trust the government to manage the currency.
So what do you think is next? We have this political tailwind, let's call it, where hopefully we're going to get some clarity around the regulations and what can be offered, the circumstances and requirements around that. What do you think should be first couple of items on that agenda? And then how do you expect Bitcoin prices to react, let's say, over the next 4 years in response?
Well, I do think the strategic Bitcoin reserve is a good start. I think that's a really good idea. It makes sense. If Bitcoin is behaving like digital gold and we're seeing adoption increase, there's a finite amount of it, the price is going to go up. We're already holding a ton of it. Yes, 100,000 is a new high, but I believe that it's going to continue to go up. It's not going to be a straight line. It's probably going to have it's going to have plenty more crashes. But just like we have strategic gold reserves, I think having a strategic Bitcoin reserve makes a lot of sense. So that's one. I think another area where we need clarity on is stablecoin legislation. This is something that, you hear economists, or more often than political pundits, talk about the eroding of the dollar as a global reserve currency. And who knows when the dollar gets displaced. I mean, if you look historically, we've had different global reserve currencies over time. Eventually they get displaced by another one. I don't think that's imminent, but it's definitely eroding. We're kicking that can down the road with debt and with really, I think, just with other countries trying to come up with alternatives. I don't think there's a great alternative right now, but stablecoin legislation would be one way to really further solidify the dollar as a global reserve currency, because what they're essentially doing is putting digital dollars on the blockchain. But they're doing it with real physical dollars, right? So like a lot of these stable coins, what they'll do is, they'll put US dollars in a vault, in a bank account, and then they create a digital version online that people can transact in really in a frictionless manner. And this is a huge market already, but there's no clear regulation. And so they're operating in a bit of a gray area. You have different players, maybe with different reserves or different, are they holding straight just dollars? Are they holding commercial paper? Are they, and so just having some clarity around that would be a really good thing, because this is what's being used already. The U.S. doesn't need to create its own CBDC like China has done. We really can just use what's already working on the dollar, and it's a great thing for the United States and for its status with the global reserve currency. So I think those are probably the two biggest things I can think of in terms of what needs to happen that would be good for crypto, but also good for Americans in general.
I know we've been kind of talking macro based in terms of the entire economy, the US, global economy, and where Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is going to be in that landscape. I wanted to kind of bring it back, change gears a little bit to the individual investor. I feel like most people now fall into one of two camps. They're either, oh shoot, I didn't have Bitcoin and I have a ton of FOMO. It's at 100,000. All of my friends are getting so rich. What do? Do I buy in now? And then there's the people who owned it and maybe they've held it. And now they're like, oh, is this my opportunity to sell? Do I want to get out now? How would you, and I know you kind of alluded to, you're still kind of bullish on the asset class. You think it's still going to continue to go up, obviously, not in a straight line up and to the right, and we'll have more pullbacks. But I guess how would you address those two different groups of kind of the population?
Yeah. So the thinking is, oh, that ship has already sailed. I mean, my take is there's more ships. I felt this way 3 years ago when we first started positioning our portfolios into Bitcoin and Ethereum. I was like, oh man, what if we'd only done this 2 years earlier? Gosh, we would, and I think 3 years from now, people are going to be having the same conversation. What I think will happen, I do think there is a lot more upside, but you have to take a long-term view. This needs to be a part of your portfolio. You don't want to overextend yourself, and you also need to go in with eyes wide open. This is a very volatile investment. It will do well over the next 10 years. Over the next year, who knows? It could be down 75%, and you need to be okay with that. And if it's down 75%, not only do you need to be okay with it, you need to rebalance. If you said 2% of my portfolio is going into this, reallocate and get it back up to 2%. Now, my sense is that it still has a way to go. We're still on the front end of this crypto bull market. What tends to happen is that Bitcoin leads. Bitcoin is the oldest. It's kind of the most vanilla of the cryptocurrencies. And then what you see is a movement down the risk spectrum into Ethereum, and then into some of these alt layer ones, and then into this really long tail of thousands and thousands of different cryptocurrencies, most of which will go to zero, but some of which, some of them might hit a home run. And so I still think we're in the early innings. I think Bitcoin's going to continue to move. I think you're going to start to see a shift into some of these other cryptocurrencies. And then I do think eventually we're going to see another bubble. And like I said earlier, price drives adoption. And what we're going to see is that as the price goes higher and higher and higher, more and more people are going to get interested, and that's going to eventually lead to kind of a frothy bubble. And we're going to continue this sort of sine wave that's just sort of perpetually moving up. But there's definitely a crash ahead of us. I don't know when it is. I think we've still got a lot of runway. But again, the most important thing is that you go into it with a long-term perspective.
Jaime, what do you think of some of these? You kind of mentioned moving down the risk spectrum within crypto. I've heard a lot about Solana versus Ethereum and how it's pretty competitive and has its advantages. But there's also a lot of other coins kind of beneath the surface that get created every day. What do you think individual investors should think of those?
I would be wary. I think as you move further and further into the cryptocurrencies that have less and less adoption, it's more and more and more speculative. Because you're looking at a number of things. Some of it is, are they doing anything that's fundamentally different? Because many of them are really just copying Ethereum, right? Is there anything that they're doing differently? Number one. Number two, what is the adoption? like are developers building on those networks. Because if you don't have that adoption, eventually they're going to fizzle out. And that is one thing that Ethereum and Solana at this point, I would argue, has going for it. It used to just be Bitcoin and Ethereum. They were like the Coke and Pepsi of the crypto world. Do two totally different things. Bitcoin is, we only want to be money. We want to be hard money, and it's not programmable. We like very little surface area for it to mess up, for a bug, for things to go wrong. Ethereum is like the Swiss Army knife. It's programmable money. It serves a different niche, a different need. And then all of the other alt layer ones are kind of doing the same thing. They're trying to be programmable money. Solana, relative to Ethereum, made some different choices in the way that ecosystem is architected, to just create, basically allow for more transactions, faster and faster transactions. And it has gained, I would argue, enough adoption at this point where Solana's probably not going away. So Solana's kind of a distant third in terms of market cap. Again, still you're moving further and further on the risk spectrum. And then you have a lot of other coins that are kind of copying these same things. I think most of them are going to go to zero. There are going to be some that probably do well. Maybe they fit some kind of niche. But a lot of those coins, let's just say there's a lot of people out there kind of promoting them, pumping them, and oftentimes they have a vested interest in them. And so I would say that, the more conservative approach is to just invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum. A product like the Bitwise Crypto 10, I think is great for something like this. I mean, we invested in this really early on, and the idea behind that is that it is an index fund, a crypto index fund. I mean, it's not a fund, it's a trust, but the idea is that they take the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap, and then they screen out meme coins and other meme coins, and then stable coins. And so you have Bitcoin that makes up probably 60% of it because it's 60% of the market cap, Ethereum that makes up roughly 30% because it's 30% of the market cap, and then you kind of have the other 8 largest cryptocurrencies, and that's a good way to get exposure. I think for the average person, unless you're really knee deep in crypto and you are researching these protocols and maybe you're a developer, I would kind of stay away from anything else.
Jaime, something I've always wondered about some of those meme coins is, if the SEC is so harsh towards some of these crypto players, why is it that they don't go after some of these pump and dump meme coin crypto schemes that seem to, be pretty transparently fraud? Like the Haktua coin over the weekend, right? That you have some internet celebrity that's famous for no reason. She copy pastes an Ethereum coin, puts it out there, dumps all her stuff, makes a lot of money, people lose, and then what? She skates free? Like, how is a hostile SEC not taking care of that?
No, I totally agree. That's been part of the problem, is that they've been sort of letting the bad actors fly under the radar and going after the people, the good guys. They're suing Kraken and Coinbase, saying that you're listing unregistered securities on your exchange, and yet the FTX flew right under the radar. And there are numerous examples of pump and dump schemes in crypto where there's clearly an incentive, like someone is launching something that is what they call like vaporware. They put out this roadmap with no intention of ever hitting it. Early investors pump the price up, they dump it on the market, and then all the retail buyers that bought it, are really left holding the bag, and eventually it goes to zero. There's a lot of that in crypto. There definitely is. And I mean, those are the types of things that the SEC needs to be going after. You're absolutely right.
It reminds me of SPACs in early 2021.
Well, good. I think this was a great discussion, talking about macro level Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, as well as down to the individual investor. Even got Haktua mentioned. Didn't think I'd see the day on Map Your Money. But Jaime, was there anything else that you wanted to kind of touch on in terms of changes we've seen or what we can expect going forward?
I mean, I just want to highlight the fact that we're lucky to live in a country where the systems of government eventually get back to sanity. So like what was happening with crypto I think regardless of who got elected, it played out in the legal system, and sanity prevails. And I think that it's a really good thing for everybody, because we are going to see more crypto adoption. This isn't just a bunch of tech bros. It's going to be one of many things that drives economic growth in this country. So really, I think we're in a really good place. Just like the internet in the 90s, where we have this fundamental new technology, we need to draft sane legislation to protect people, but at the same time to not squash it.
Yeah, and I would add on one more thing is, you can listen to us talk about crypto and the impact the election had and have your own opinion on that. But another thing that we like to do to kind of check ourselves is just watch the market reaction and understand how are investors receiving this news, what action are they taking based on that. And since the election, Bitcoin's up 43% and Ethereum's up 55% according to YCharts. So, I think it's, regardless of what you think is causing that, clearly something has changed in the market that investors are paying attention to. And I think that means everyone else should pay attention to.
Certainly. And those are as of December 10th, because I know this will come out here in
we got to
2
make
weeks,
sure
so
this
maybe,
is an evergreen episode.
Sounds good.
2024.
Jamie and there you go. Jamie and Jeff, appreciate y'all's time, and look forward to the next crypto discussion. And I'll be listening to those Christmas playlists in the meantime.
All right, sounds good. Send them my way.
That Kenny G, baby.
All information provided by this presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute investment, legal, or tax advice. It is not an offer to buy or sell any security or any insurance product. This is not an endorsement of any third party or such third party's views. The information contained herein has been obtained from sources we believe to be reliable and is not guaranteed as to its accuracy or completeness. Whenever there are references to third-party content, this information is intended to provide additional perspective and should not be construed as an endorsement of any services, products, guidance, individuals, or points of view outside of Beam Wealth Advisors, DBA Benedetti, Gooser & Associates. All examples are hypothetical and for illustrative purposes only. Beam Wealth Advisors, DBA Benedetti, Gooser & Associates does not offer tax or legal advice. Interested parties are strongly encouraged to seek advice from qualified tax and/or legal experts regarding the best options for your particular circumstances.